Good morning, everyone, from a dark and gloomy and moody Djuma game reserve. As you can see, there's been a stormy night and, well, quite a few clouds around at the moment. I do apologize for our tardy start. We've had a few little gremlin issues, but they have been sorted out. Our little network wizard, Jared, has sorted everything and made sure that we are up and running, and so hopefully that will be the last of the gremlins for the morning. My name is Tristan, and on camera today I have got Sebastian, and, well, it's the first time I've been with Seb since before he went to the Mara. How long ago was that, Seb? That's about 3 months. So it's a long time since I was with Seb, and I always have wonderful drives with Seb. He's a good luck charm, so hopefully it will be another excellent morning this morning. Now, you can get hold of us and ask any questions, or if you just want to say hello, because we are live and interactive, which means that hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat if you would like to do any of those. So the plan for the morning is, I think, to go and try and see if we can find a Shadow's cub. That's kind of where we're aiming to start heading. I think we're going to head down towards sort of Twin Dams area, see if maybe Shadow's cub is still around. I know she was left moving around the dam and was still walking in that area, so hopefully we'll get lucky and we'll find some sort of sign of Shadow's cub down in the south. It's a very nice surprise to have had her there yesterday. It was very cool that James got to see her, so it'll be nice if we can carry on with that. Otherwise, anything else really. I mean, it's a interesting morning. It's sort of grey, overcast and cool, and that might mean that we get a lot of activity out of our predators early on, which will make it interesting to be out and see what's actually taken place over the night. Right, I'm going to start forging my way down towards Twin Dams. While I do that, let's go across to the dry hen himself so he can say good morning.
Good morning. Nice to have you with us. Good morning, David. David is on camera today. My name is James Hendry. I'm very happy to be with you today. Please do ask us any questions you'd like to using the hashtag Safari Live. Otherwise, of course, you can use the chat stream on YouTube. Good. That's all I have to say from a housekeeping point of view. There, you see, I am quite dry sometimes. Very nice to have you with us. As I say, 22 degrees Celsius. Very nice to be cool out here. A southeasterly breeze blowing towards us and making it feel like we might actually survive the day. Because yesterday, well, we felt like we wouldn't survive the day. My plan is to check here at Treehouse Dam, and then I think I'll probably go back up towards the north, have a scratch around for some hyena activity, because I do think that there is a den here somewhere. Anyway, that is the plan. I would also like to say that Jared Jennings, who is our technical genius, originally from Utah, as far as I'm aware, yes, that's right, in the United States. He said that you South Africans complain a lot about the weather. He made the comment the other day. I punched him in the face thereafter, and he hasn't made another comment about it. But I do think that he has a point. We do make a lot of comment about the weather. That might be because we don't have much else to say at the beginning of a drive, but we do tend to bemoan either the heat or the cold. And unless it's a perfect sort of 24 degrees Celsius, which is around about, I guess, 75 Fahrenheit, well, we tend to have a fairly negative comment about the weather. So I apologize for that, but it's not going to stop. Right, let us head across to Stivovo now, who is using his legs to perambulate around the wilderness.
Good morning, and welcome to all of you from wherever you hail from this beautiful world of ours. Another beautiful morning here in Djuma, Sabi Sands. My name is Steve Falconbridge, and on the camera I have the wildebeest VM. We have come out this morning on a bushwalk. We have Rexon. He's just over there somewhere. We've lost his visual, but he is with us, and we've come out. We heard some hyenas quite active last night. We've come in sort of a northwesterly direction from camp. We actually are right now sitting on an old used hyena den site. There's no fresh activity, and there are some bones around, but nothing fresh or nothing new here. And yes, indeed, James, we are walking and working out the stiff muscles from exercise. It is wonderful to be out here, and we have a wonderful morning ahead. The clouds are coming through. There is a bit of a storm pushing in, it looks like. So we need to keep our eyes on that, but if anything, it is going to make for a nice, cool day. We had a bit of rain last night, probably about 3:30 or so, 3 o'clock in the morning. Just a bit of a drizzle, but it did not do too much to the ground. You can't even see the water on the ground, but it definitely cooled things down. So folks, I'm going to continue my theme this morning with a little bit of a tree exhibition as well, and when I find the tree we'll get to it. I have my trusty book with me right here, and we are going to be walking, probably keeping in this direction, see where we can find. It is wonderful to be on foot again. Please, as I'm sure the other presenters have asked you, send through your questions and comments on @Safari Live or follow the YouTube stream. Monique asks, is Djuma a dry or humid heat? Now, Monique, this time of year, in the summer, when there is greenery around and we've had some rain, the heat is very humid. But before November... What's that, Rex? Sorry, Rex has just clicked his fingers, so I'm going to keep my voice down a little bit. But before November... Djuma is very, very hot and dry. That heat is very dry. But once sort of November comes, depends on the first rains, you can see around us it's quite green and there is moisture in there. It's very, very sticky. Yesterday was very sticky and uncomfortable. This morning, a lot cooler. I hope that answers your question. So we're going to carry on. I'm going to get up with the aid of my stick and we're going to go and see what Rexon is clicking his fingers about. My walking stick, I picked this up in the north of the Kruger National Park, and I don't know what wood it is. It is a beautiful piece, and it is the perfect length for a golf swing as well. My lucky stick. So, folks, we are going to carry on here. I'm going to find out what Rexon's up to over there. He's definitely heard something. We're going to go over to Mr. Dix, who I believe is searching for Shadow's cub.
Well, I am searching for Shadow's cub. I've just actually found tracks, not for Shadow's cub, I don't think, but it looks like maybe tracks for Thandi. But they were before the rain, so early last night. The rain started to fall at about 9:45 last night, so not very sort of late at all. And so if those tracks are before the rain, then they're from a long time ago. But what we do have flying along the Mulawati is just a whole congregation of Amur falcons. They're just kind of coming from the north, going south, and I'm sure after the little bit of moisture that we've had falling, there will be a number of termites, that will winged allets that will be hatching, and that's why all of these guys are going. You can see the drongos are not very thrilled at the prospect of a whole bunch of falcons flying past their nest, but it's all good, they'll be alright. And the red-billed buffalo weavers are also making a bit of noise, so I don't know why I said drongos, but it's the red-billed buffalo weavers that I'm looking at. There was a drongo sitting in the tree, but it's not the one making the noise at this stage. But well done, Seb. Nice camera work, because those things are not flying slowly at all, and they're still coming. There's a whole bunch of them that are on their way, so there's a number of these guys that are just sort of coming past us and flying along and looking for all kinds of food that could be hatching, and there they go into the grey, dark, gloomy skies. Right, onward, Seb. So I was saying that the tracks are not very good. Like I say, because they're before the rain, it must be early last night, and well, Thandi could be anywhere from there. So what I want to do is they come from this direction, which means that maybe, just maybe, that there is still a den inside Mulawati, because we don't know where her den is at the moment. We've been checking that one where we last saw her with the cub, but James had her with the cub moving down back into the Mulawati. So I want to try and see if I can maybe backtrack these tracks and just see exactly where she came from, because that might give us a good indication of where to start looking for her and where we maybe can try and find where she's keeping the little cub. So that's the kind of thought process that I have. Also, the way she's heading is towards where James is, so maybe we'll have a situation where James will pick up the tracks on his side and be able to follow the fresher ones from there. Now, Sinak, you're wondering if there's any sort of indication of where the wild dogs are this morning? No, not yet. Oh, Dina, there we go. Sorry, Kirsty, it broke up a little bit. But Dina, no, not yet. We are just starting out our morning. It's a dark morning, and so tracks have been quite difficult to see. So I haven't found any signs of them yet. That's not to say that they might pop out somewhere. I know Rex always has this theory that if it starts out in a cold, overcast morning, that wild dogs are always something for the cards. So maybe we'll have a situation where you never know. Maybe the dogs do appear, but so far no sign of them. We'll have a look around. Obviously, we are moving in those directions and kind of heading to where James last had them, but they could have gone east, west, north, south. You never know with wild dogs, and generally they move quite a bit, so we'll just have to pay attention and look out for their tracks and see. Maybe we get lucky and we'll find them once again, because we've been very spoiled with the dogs. We're almost getting kind of used to having them around, so we have to remind ourselves that they are a special animal to find and one that we don't always get to see. They're ones that kind of move in and out quite quickly, so we'll hope that they stick around for a little bit and that we will still find them this morning. Now I'm just trying to check carefully as we're going here. It's really tough to see tracks. There's no great light. It's very soft light, which is not giving you much in terms of edges on tracks and those kind of things. And so I'm just driving slowly in the hope that I can pick up these tracks somewhere here again and then go from there. But while I do that, I believe James, I think, is out of his vehicle and potentially has found tracks of his own.
Tracks going down this road, but rather too close to the southern boundary. Bothered to follow them, especially as they were underneath what some people are terming rain last night. I'm terming very brief universe spit, which is absolutely terrified out of its wits. There we are. Hello, little Diker. Here we are. Come on, come forward. Now, the Diker is one of those classic animals that has a fact known by everybody about it. That's a young male. And as the topee is universally and often referred to as the fastest antelope in the world, so the Diker, his favourite fact is, you know, they are also quite carnivorous. They've been seen eating nesting birds. And so we're not allowed to say that anymore, because we've said it too many times. I quite liked his little red head, this chap. Now, he's called the grey Diker in many parts of Africa, but you can see he's not particularly grey here. And that's why he's known as the common Diker here. And what's interesting is that he becomes greyer the further towards the cape you go. Tiny little thing. Probably weighs in the region, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 25 kilograms or so, so about 50 pounds. He's quite a nice example. Young male, that. We can see he's young from the length of his horns. Let's go a little bit closer, see if we can get another view. Just in there, David, hiding in a guarri thicket. Well, many of you giving comments on how cute the Diker is. Look at him, he's really quite fond of David, or something else on the back of this vehicle. And many of you commenting how cute he is. Yes, he is quite cute, isn't he? But I've told this story before, and for those of you who haven't heard it, there was a chap I knew who did a lot of game capture, a highly experienced fellow. So, I mean, he'd removed wildebeest, he'd removed buffalo, he'd removed rhino and elephant from various places. He said the most terrifying experience he ever had was with a Diker. He and his wife were just examining a creature that was going to be moved somewhere, and it attacked them. And he set upon it with his wife's handbag, and he had to repel something like 20 attacks from this thing. It kept coming at them, and then he'd beat it with the handbag, and it would back off, and then it would come again, and he'd beat it off. And they took 20 times before he managed to extract himself and his good wife from the enclosure in which the sweet little gentle Diker was sitting. So I wouldn't tangle with one in a confined space. Ellie, you want to know if I would say Diker or Duiker? Well, it depends what language I'm speaking. So, Duiker is the Afrikaans word, D-U-I-K-E-R, Duiker. Correct, David? Yes, David says that is correct. And I guess the anglicized version is Dyker, D-Y-K-E-R. It's probably more correct for me to use. I've seldom seen it spelt D-Y-K-E-R, although I have seen it spelt like that. And it's probably more correct to spell it D-U-I-K-E-R. But yeah, you can say Dyker or Daker, I guess. It's just that A is not an English sound, and so it can sound a little unusual. Righty, out in the wilderness, absorbing the energy of life and growth coming from the soil, the Stivofo, and he would like to tell you about that.
Indeed, welcome back. We are indeed absorbing the life of the bush. Breathing it in through the lungs, feeling the energy through the ground. Folks, I have found one of the trees I'd like to talk about. And I'm not sure if you can see it very clearly at the moment. But VM will get it in frame for you now. This is the glorious silver cluster leaf. The reason I'm choosing this plant for today, I'm jumping a few pages forward in the book, is purely because it is flowering at the moment. And I can show you one of the flowers. There we go. It's a mass of spikes. And what you can't notice from your chairs or couches, wherever you might be, is the smell of this flower. It smells like dirty socks. If anyone has ever played football or basketball or whatever you might have done and taken off your sweaty gym socks and left them in a bag for about 3-4 days, that smell. It's fantastic. It is not the best smell in the bush, but it is a smell. And when these flowers are flowering, it does quite often just scent up the air. It's a sweet pungence, and it definitely does attract all sorts of pollinators to it. This is called the silver cluster leaf, and you can see it by the way that the leaves cluster on the end of the branches there. And it's also why, and it's silver, you can see there's quite a silver tinge to it. And the name terminalia comes from the terminal leaves that you see in bunches. And sericea is the species name, comes from this very soft texture, very soft and fluffy. Okay, wonderful, wonderful tree. And what's interesting about it is that you can take strips of the bark. You can use them for bandages, first of all. I'm not going to damage this tree and rip the bark off. There's a small tree, first of all. They can grow up to about 55, 60 feet in height. So this is quite a small individual. But you can take strips of the bark, you can rip it off. It works very, very well as a bandage. And you could also grind the bark down and physically sprinkle it into any wound that you might have and then bandage that up with the bark. Any decoctions from the roots and the bark as well, you can use for stomach ailments. Apparently it can be used to treat pneumonia. And if you take infusions of the leaves, that can help with any diabetic problems that you might have. So a very universal plant once again. And this is a very small tree. We're not in the area that this tree is dominating, but in some of the granitic soils here, the heavy granite soils, this tree can actually dominate. And it is indicative of what we call a seep line. So when you find a whole lot of these trees in a long straight line, you can almost be sure that just below that, you're not going to have any trees. You're going to have almost like a little marshy area. There might not be any water there at the time, but looking at it from an ecological point of view, you can actually use the map, you can use an aerial photograph to see where those trees are, and then you can design your road above that. If you build your road below, you're just going to cause yourself a whole lot of problems. Terminalia sericea, nice and soft. The leaves don't have too much to them. They are very, very bitter, but the young shoots will be eaten by the likes of elephant and giraffe. But we're going to carry on. We keep heading north in this direction. We'll talk more about this tree as we go. We're looking for the little things, folks. This is what the beautiful thing about being afoot is, the little things. I'm very excited. And we're going to go over to James and see what he has for you.
We have a bed. This is a magpie shrike, and you will see that it has a truncated tail. That's not because it has been attacked by something. It is because it is a little bird. Since we found these birds, they've had 4 birthdays. Let me just go backwards a little bit here. There. We got them on that sort of stump thing there, David. They seemed to be quite distressed, and that's why we stopped. We thought, there must be a leopard underneath them. We were wrong. I think they're just sort of learning the ropes of territorial calling, really. They're flying along with the rest of the flock. They are, of course, communal breeders, and they're being tended quite closely by some red-billed buffalo weavers. And so I think it's just a little feeding party moving through the couth of the morning. Oh, and if you listen carefully, you can hear beautiful sound of the ghost bird or spook fool or the grey-headed bushshrike. Now, Mary, you're wondering about the dawn chorus. What exactly was it? Can we have that question again, please, Kirsten? What is the typical morning chorus for the birds? It's difficult to answer that question, Mary. I'm not really sure how to. Just quickly, we've got the youngster there on the right. You can see still begging and still with that slightly yellow gape to the mouth, which helps the parents to feed him, of course. Look at him begging there. Mary, the typical dawn chorus, I suppose, here would start with the grey-headed sparrow. There's a red-billed buffalo weaver. And after the grey-headed sparrow going chip, 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 we'd have some francolins starting to yell at each other. Then the inevitable chip of the woodland kingfisher would begin, and then up would come the string section, I suppose you'd describe them, of the ring-necked doves. They would then start calling, and then probably a few more francolin species, and then by the sort of time the sun comes up, well, then you'll have everything going. We'll have a few waxbills, some southern boo-boos going, sort of like a very subtle woodwind section. Then we'd have a few cuckoos if we were here in summer, and then we might be lucky to have a fish eagle going, and then a hardy-dar, as David gave us yesterday. David, would you like to give us your hardy-dar again? No, he wouldn't. He sounded like Joe Cocker trying to do a hardy-dar yesterday. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, Mary. All right, we're going to go up here, see if we can pick up the tracks of the female leopard that Brother Tristan had. While we do that, I believe that out in the Maasai Mara, we have Brent Leo Smith, and he would like to greet you fondly.
Well, James Henry is definitely as loud as a hardy-dar on a daily basis, so very apt that that's the call he was doing. Good morning. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and I have Adrian on camera with me. And we are in, well, it's drizzling a little bit, but the drier side of the Mara. Poor Ralph and Batman are encased in the car tent and being absolutely pelted down upon. So they're over there somewhere, and it's a very, very thick wall of cloud in that direction. I'm hoping that we can sort of duck around the side and head down south towards Tanzania. We are doing a full day out today, so hopefully we will find lots of wonderful things. Remember, if you have any questions for us, hashtag Safari Live on whatever medium you're watching is the best way to get hold of us. Now, I also hear that Steve is doing trees, and he was just recently talking about the silver cluster leaf, one of my favorite trees. And I think you guys should all get together and get Steve to eat a cluster leaf live. We all know what it does by now. So let's what hashtag should we use? Hashtag Steve and the cluster leaf? Steve and the terminalia. Hashtag Steve and the terminalia. Let's get Steve as a rite of passage to chew on a nice big bunch of terminalia leaves live. What do you guys think? I think it's an excellent idea. So remember, hashtag Steve and the terminalia, hashtag Safari Live. Let's get Steve chewing on that terminalia. And I can't wait to see screenshots of his face. But as I said, it's very, very dark this morning, so the sun is actually up. But because of the thick cloud cover, I've still got my lights on as I meander down towards the south.
There's a little bit of drizzle coming in from the east and a little bit from the west, and I'm hoping as we get past that line of trees in the distance there, we should be past the drizzle. Now, yesterday we did manage to find the female cheetah and 2 cubs. Unfortunately, she was in a gremlin-filled zone. I am hoping she has moved a little bit further to the west of where she was yesterday, and that could mean she's in good signal, as well as the never-ending search for the leucistic hyenas. So that's the plan today. We're going to duck down, do the Mara River all the way to Purangat, and then head towards the Tanzanian boundary. And now let's go see how the king, the undisputed heavyweight champion and king of the Marshmallow Club, Rolf, is doing.
Well, yes, thank you, Brent, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Greater Mara Reserve, which is rather drizzly and not very clear at the moment, quite chilly as well. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we have Craig. How's it, Craig? Welcome to Safari Live, and please join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. Please throw us your questions and your comments, because this is the largest game drive in the world. I'm sure there's lots of questions about what happened to us yesterday, so just to preempt, well, we got kind of stuck in a hole, and we saw it was a little bit of a wet, muddy section through a lugger, but we didn't realize that below the water, I believe it had been a little bit of a hippo wallow, and as we went in, we sank to the bottom. We got nicely stuck, and so from around 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon until about 9 o'clock, we were stuck in that hole. We tried to flag people down with my very strong torch, and we were waving and trying to get the attention of everybody, but people were carrying on with their game drives as per usual, and so later on we did eventually get some help, and it was also some help from Jamie and Brent, who called in the Cavaliers, and everybody came to help us all at once. So eventually we got pulled out in the dark after we had been sitting having a chat with some of the locals who were rather scared of the darkness and whatever lurks inside. Now, I know about this little badge here, but I think the best badge, in fact, is what is being worn on my hat, which is all the mud which was sprayed upon myself as we were trying to get out. Now, it wasn't one of those that we could get out on our own. We did try our best, but eventually we needed to have a vehicle tow us out, but we had broken ropes and all sorts, so that didn't work first. Then we had to get eventually a very big cable that was not going to break and pulled us out. Right, but that aside, that is all the adventures that we've been having. I'm sure we're going to have some lovely adventures today. It is, however, nice and drizzly and wet, so it might be quite slippery, and who knows, we might get stuck again. Well, that's just part of the job, isn't it? So, folks, we're going to be looking for some cheetah today. But we'll stop for everything in between, and we are going to see if we can catch up with the musketeers. Who knows? But for now, let's just enjoy the ride and head on out. It's lovely to be back in the land of the mobile, and when you start your car and put it in gear, you can actually move forward, and as opposed to just rocking backwards and forwards in a little lugger. And so you might notice a little bit of the canvas on the sides, because as Brent has said, he's over on in the Mara Triangle. He's getting a little bit of rain, we're getting a little bit of rain, and so we are just trying to protect the equipment. So just so that you know, you might see the canvas on the sides. But we haven't had too much information, because we literally had to go back to camp and try and pry the mud off of our bodies, and I think I'm still finding mud in places that I didn't know exist. Now, speaking of getting things off of you and mud hanging from everywhere, let's send you on over to James, who I think has got something hanging just the same.
No? Now we're live. Okay, hello everybody. David was waving at me, a little bit like somebody's starting a Grand Prix. Anyway, thank you, Marshmallow King. I must confess to you that I followed your escapades yesterday with great interest, parked in your puddle as you were. Bad luck. Glad it wasn't me. Right, up above especially, in fact I'm especially glad it wasn't me, because to be pulled out by Brent Leo Smith at 8 o'clock in the night, I promise you Ralph will be hearing about that for the rest of his life. Now what we have here is a rather distressing sight, and it is obviously a hornbill. Well, I suppose if you were being more accurate you'd say it was a hornbill, and I think it was a grey hornbill, a youngster. And what's happened is that it's died in the nest, and I don't know why it's died in the nest. It's sort of semi-full feathered, although all the flesh is gone, so this is not a recent death. And I think what probably happened was that it died inside the nest some time back, and then the nest kind of started to disintegrate from the effects of elephants possibly pulling it, or maybe just the wood was rotting, something like that. And it's fallen out eventually and sort of rotted. That was a nasty Sisyphus grabbing me by the leggy. So that's really quite sad. I thought for a second maybe it just got too big and couldn't get out. But of course fully adult females and males can get in and out of the nests. So I don't think that's the case. Isn't that a sad state of affairs? You can see, though, where the nest probably was, with the bark and the wood that covered that broken limb. Anyway, on that rather tragic note, I think we'll probably press on from here. Don't want to stare death in the face for too long, especially not on a cheerful morning like this. And it is cheerful, because the Marshmallow King is no longer marshmallowing. Well, not yet anymore. Right, on we go. I found no further sign of mammal life, apart from one site of another duiker. Now I've confused between the two words, and I don't know whether to say duiker or duiker, so I'm making some hash in the middle. Duiker. Yeah, Djuma, it does look like its feet got stuck in the nest, but I think that's just what's keeping it in there. I think it would fall out if they weren't hooked in there. I don't think it got stuck. I think it just looks like it got stuck, and it's been eaten away, obviously, by various creatures. It could have been killed perhaps by a snake, bitten by a snake, and maybe the snake went off and didn't actually eat the woodpecker, hornbill, eat the hornbill, but I think it's been eaten now by flies and insects more than anything else, so nothing else has come to sort of prey on it or scavenge on it and eat it whole, and the flesh has slowly just come off the skeleton. It may have just rotted there on its own. Very little out here, of course, manages to rot without being eaten. Interesting. Yannick, you say, is it possible that that chick got killed by other youngsters in the same nest? And I'm going to say no, I don't think it is possible, because it was quite big. I mean, that was almost a fledgling bird. And yes, there are some species of bird where the siblings will kill each other. Siblicide is quite common. Canism, if you like. It happens in the eagles. It also happens with some cuckoo species, though they don't kill their siblings, they kill their hosts. But I don't think that's the case there. That normally happens just after the hatching, and that was well beyond hatching stage. There's a black-bellied bustard over there. Did you see it, David? There it is. It's now hiding from you. Let me move so that you can find it again. No, it's come out. Now it's hiding again. What an absolutely horrendous individual this bird is. Move a little bit further forward. So Yannick, I'm going to say no. I don't think it was killed in a flurry of sublicidal action. How can this bird be gone? That was a black-bellied bustard, everybody. It flew in and then hid in the long grass from David, who frightened it with his camera. You mustn't frighten the birds, David. Sometimes that's all we have to see. Anyway, we shall keep along. Now apparently Brent Leo Smith has asked Stivovo to eat a silver cluster leaf. That's of course because Brent Leo Smith knows what a silver cluster leaf tastes like. I think unfortunately for him you'll find that Stivovo also knows what a silver cluster leaf tastes like.
Yes indeed, thank you James, thank you Brent. I will accept the challenge. There's not many of these where we are at the moment, so I grabbed a branch in anticipation for this challenge. And okay, here we go. We have a silver cluster leaf branch. You can all see it's quite silver, so I'm not cheating. And there's the whiteness on there, silvery as I wipe it off. That is a defense against the sun. Actually, that white reflects the harmful UV rays, but allows the green through for the photosynthesis. That's why these trees can be exposed with large leaves in the hot months. Okay, so I'm going to show you, because you know what you can do with this plant. The bark can be used for tanning leather. Quite an interesting thing, and if we know anything about tannins, you're going to watch my face, and it's probably going to look quite strange. It is extremely bitter, folks. Extremely bitter, and it's just lingering everywhere in the mouth. I have done this before. Thank you, Brent. Appreciate it. We're going to think of something for you. So for tanning leather, what you do with leather is you need to cure it, and by getting tannin, you extract it from the bark of this, and you can use it to make the leather nice and pliable. Keeps it, obviously prolongs it for a very long time. That bitterness that we taste is what animals taste, and they avoid it. We can taste it. We spoke last night about taste buds. Animals have taste buds. They'll come across a plant like this. This plant generally grows on the upper slope. It's got no thorns as a means of defense, so it has got tannin. And the tannin is something that the herbivores will taste. And what tannin does is it binds to protein. And inside the stomach, you cannot digest what it is bound to. So that's why it's good for looking after leather and curing it. But before I was talking about the bark, and I've cut this branch off, so I'm now going to use it. You can make very nice twine out of the bark. You can see that. Look how that strip has come off beautifully there for me. And if I just clean up those branches a little bit of leaves, get those off. I'm not going to be eating them anytime soon again. And with that, you're quite a useful bit of twine for bandaging, for whatever you might need twine for. Quite strong. Okay, so Snazzy wants to know if the silver is good for wounds. They don't mention in the literature I've had. It doesn't kill bacteria that I know of, but the ground bark definitely. You'd probably dry this out, you'd grind it down, and then you sprinkle that inside the wound, and that'll do all sorts of healing inside of whatever wound you might have. And then if you've got a nice little strip like this, you can also bandage it on there quite nicely. So that is the lovely silver cluster leaf, and as promised, I was going to show you the page, and I have forgotten the page number, have I? No, I haven't. There it is. If you can see that. Bush willow family, it's related to the combretums. There's a bush willow family, Combretiaceae. And if you look at the distribution map, you're not supposed to find it, or if you look at this map here, you're not supposed to find it down in the river, down in the drainage lines. It is an indication of seepage, and you find it generally where water is coming out of the granitic slope down and out into the landscape again. Beautiful tree, very good as an ornamental tree in the garden. And as I said, we can use it for tanning, also good for axe handles and all sorts of other tools and implements that we might need in the household. And for a morning like this, there's lots of biting flies that all sorts of.
Well, unfortunately, Steve apparently is getting gremlins, and not only that, his silver cluster leaf must have tasted horrific, because I've tasted them. It is not a pleasant experience. Your mouth goes all dry, it is bitter, so I'm sure Steve's going to have to think of something very good for Brent to be able to sort of give Brent a similar experience. I'm sure there is something that he can find for him, but we have had no luck with the Shadows Cup. Not a single track, not anything to work with. So I'm now right down on Gowrie Main, and the reason why I want to be down here is just to check if she didn't cross out, because she might have just crossed south of the boundary, and that's why I haven't been able to find anything. But we've seen no tracks for her, no tracks for the wild dogs, so I think that in my mind is that they might all have been gone south and kind of into Little Gowrie. But let's see, we'll try and have a look quickly. Yes, there we go. Well, there's one leopard that's gone south, so which leopard it is I'm not quite sure. I'll have to just double check. So that's a male leopard that's gone southwards, which maybe is Tingana that could have gone there. I'm not 100% sure, but you can see they cross over and then head off into Little Gowrie itself. So these ones here, so that just go that way. So there they are, and moving southwards, which is not ideal for us. Right, well, we're going to carry on, because these tracks we can't really do too much with. While we do that, I believe James has found himself a rather striped, rather beautiful animal to show all of you.
I have found a striped, rather beautiful animal. Anybody who guessed what it was, you must be a genius. It is, in fact, a zebra. Yes, that's correct. A very nice little herd of zebra. I cannot believe I used the adjective nice. I apologize profusely for my lack of imagination. But this is a very sweet little thing, lying on the ground watching us for his morning's entertainment, while the rest of the family eats grass. It's very sweet. I must say, I think a baby zebra is one of the cutest of our herbivore youngsters. Although also, I think wildebeest babies are extremely cute. I was saying yesterday, it is amazing how in a year a wildebeest baby can go from being so very cute to looking so completely confused and gormless. There's something about, there's a noble bearing to a zebra, I feel. There's something else of vital importance I wanted to tell you about the zebra, but I'm afraid I have forgotten what it was. I think that thing is probably about, I don't think that's more than sort of a month or two old. Many of you going, ooh, ah, because it's so very sweet, and it is. He's also quite red coloured. Looks like he's been rolling in the dust a bit. Sometimes they are born with a slightly sort of brownish tinge to the white fur. I do think that we need to put on our Twitter feed, somehow put out to the universe, that the question, is a zebra black with white stripes or white with black stripes? That question is now banned, by the way. No one may ever ask that question again. So if you're thinking about it, don't. I know that's a bit rude of me. But really, come now. Let's talk about something else. He is so sweet. Davy, much more original, very good. You say a baby barcode. I guess he is a baby barcode. It is amazing that, to think, when you look at a creature like this and there's a little yellow flower behind him, which makes the scene even cuter than it would be otherwise. There we go, baguette. Sorry, one more thing to point out. That is a very new baby. Well, I think probably about a month. When you see them stand up, they stand up from the front, whereas all of the ruminants that I can think of stand up from the back. So if you watch a wildebeest get up, they will lift their backsides up into the air first and then stand on their front legs, but the horses, the equids, do it the other way around. Why that should be the case, I really can't imagine. Now, Anna Marie, as far as I'm aware, and I asked a vet this once, all mammals get 2 sets of teeth. So as far as I'm aware, yes, they do have milk teeth followed by adult teeth. So yes, I'm sure that they do. And in fact, we saw it beautifully, not on a zebra, but on Tamba, when he was about, how old was he? He was about 6 months old. Yeah, when he was about 6 months old, we had a lovely sighting with him on Chitwa, and he yawned, and we could see both teeth, both pairs of teeth coming through, and in fact, we could see it on one of the Styx Pride's cubs the other day, when they came up to visit Ronald, and one of them hissed at Ronald, and you could see both sets of canines there. There's a very precious, peaceful sighting of the zebra. Eating very long grass indeed, which of course is one of the reasons that they tend to lead the big herds moving up into the Masai Mara out of the Serengeti. Okay, we are going to go back to the Mara Serengeti ecosystem in the next 10 seconds, almost exactly. Brent Leo Smith has managed to find himself a predator of sorts, and now he's going to tell you about it. Kapow.
And we have a peaceful sighting of our own. It is a very peaceful looking hyena who's blocking our way. Now, it is found a nice little smooth spot on the road, and it just looks very, very content. Hello. Looks like he's got quite a full belly, so the road's probably nice and cool. There's some nice puddles close by for once it gets a bit warmer and go lie in the puddles. It's a member of North Clan, the clan where Rolf's been spending a lot of time at the den. And den's probably about 2 or 3 kilometers from here. Now, there are over 90 individuals in that clan, and what often happens is hyenas will lie in 1s and 2s, spread out throughout the clan lands, as I like to call them, and if there is a call to arms, they can all rush in very quickly. Oh, what you heard, hyena? Of course, their hearing is infinitely better than ours. I can't hear anything. I'm going to feel a little bit bad, but I think it's time we move on. We've got a long way to go, Mr. Hyena, or Mrs. Hyena. I can't see from here. Let's see. I'll try drive round, not to disturb the morning slumber. Been a busy night, out terrorizing. Probably did a bit of whooping. All in a night's work for a Howard. He's very, very relaxed. Let's try go around so we don't disturb. Now with hyenas often, if you stop, they'll get up because they think something's up. No, don't get up. It's okay. It's okay. We're just going past you. Carry on. Sleep away. Now, a lot of you have been wondering where Jamie is. And I will answer that question shortly after I've answered a question from Casper. Casper says, wow. Or, no, actually a comment from Casper. What nice untatted ears. Yes, I'd say that hyena's probably about 1.5 years old or so, so a young hyena. The rigors of being a hyena haven't really affected it too much just yet, so it is still lovely round ears. Now, as a lot of you are wondering where Jamie is here. She is in the Mara, but she is still on leave. She'll be joining us again on the 15th. She'll be back on drives. So she's being a lady of leisure at the moment. Okay. It's so weird. This area, when I first arrived in May, was so productive. And for the last while, I mean, I've barely seen a lion or a cheetah here. When we had cheetah here regularly, we had lion here regularly. I mean, and I haven't seen actually the Mogoro Pride or the Paradise Pride since I've been back, or the Musketeers. Now, Pride Cat Mama says, how far can hyenas' vocalizations be heard from? Well, from a human being, you can probably hear them at the end at probably close to 10 kilometers, some of the loud whooping. So if we can hear them from that far, a hyena can probably hear it from double to triple that distance. Now, a couple of years ago, I was involved in a TV production that we did cognition tests on lions, hyenas, and leopard, but mostly on lions and hyenas. And we used vocalizations, and one of the most scary things I've ever seen. So they were with captive animals that reside with Kevin Richardson. I'm sure quite a few of you know who he is. And I was actually with the lions. We were filming from inside a cage. But with the hyenas, to get a different angle, I was filming from on top of the cage. So I was sitting up on top of the cage, and what we did was we played unknown hyena calls to hyenas, and they went absolutely berserk. So they immediately recognized that this was a possible threat to their clan, and they went absolutely nuts. And they got very, very excited, and actually it became a little bit dangerous. One hyena got so excited it even started jumping to like 2.5 meters up and actually grabbed the back of my jacket. I had to swat it with a tripod. It was quite scary though. But we've been seeing lots of hyenas always through this area. Now I wonder whether we haven't seen more lions because the grass is longer, or have they really moved to the other side of the river at the moment, the Paradise Pride? There seems to be a bit more prey that side. Oh, now, one of the things we actually have to deal with on a regular basis, and I'm sure a lot of our long-time viewers will also know this, we have trolls that appear on YouTube, and I will deal with the trolls shortly, but don't fly, don't fly, don't fly. This is a new bird species for everyone. No! Come back! No! Okay, I'm going to try something. Just going to make sure there's no mud behind me. Okay, wait, I'm going to turn the car around. There's mud behind me. I don't want to get stuck and join Ralph. But this is very exciting. We've seen pin-tailed widers. Now this is a straw-coloured wider. I've got to remember the East African name now. Oh, we don't want to go too far in the mud. Okay, please don't tell me you flew too far away. It's the first time I've seen them in the Mara. No, there he is. Okay, so Adrian, just on the left of the road, quickly. Okay, a little bit down to the right. Jambo, bado kidogo pole, indege. Wait, Adrian, just come out for me. Okay, watch my finger, there. Where my finger is, follow my finger. Down, 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 to the right, other right. Okay, come out again. Okay, so go, put the camera down a little bit. Okay, now zoom very slowly. Okay, down, down. Okay, up a little bit. There we go, you see it hopping. Down, 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 down. Zoom. And up a tiny bit. Say, center frame right now, zoom. Okay, there we go. Got him, there we go. Look at that. Isn't that a treat? Isn't that incredible? There's a new bird species for everyone. It's the first time I've seen it in the Mara. I have seen them before in Tanzania, but that is the first in the Mara. Isn't that cool, guys? Okay, Asante. So I stopped traffic so we could Fisi bus. Bado. I didn't go check Olololo, I came straight this side. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to show you what it is now. If I can remember, how cool was that? What am I looking for? Oh, I'm doing the wrong thing. They called it something else up here. I'm just trying to remember the name. There we go. Straw-tailed wider. So he's got, oh sorry, I was waiting for me to get it up there and it's a bit easier. So he hasn't got quite the long ones that you do see sometimes, but there we go. Isn't that a really cool bird? So there's a different wider. So very, very exciting to see. As you can see, I got very, very excited. Okay. Oh, and he's flown off now. Here we go, straw-tailed wider. Now, we were talking about trolls, and we've got a particularly bad troll that comes online every now and then, and its name is Taylor McCurdy. And Taylor McCurdy is trolling on YouTube at the moment. So if you do see her, by all means hurl abuse on and chase the trolls away. But I got so excited by the straw-tailed wider, I've forgotten what Taylor McCurdy wanted to know. So maybe Kirsten can help me out. Thank you, Megan. So there's much debate about something going on at the moment, and it is that I am going to have a haircut. And well, the last people to try was Rebecca and Geraldine, and they made such a hash of it I had to go all the way into Hoedspruit to get it fixed. So now it's going to be Jamie and Megan are going to attempt to cut my hair. We will put a video up of that. That will probably be tomorrow. Jamie and Megan are going to attempt to cut my hair because it is getting slightly unmanageable at the moment. There we go. And thanks for that, Taylor, the troll McCurdy. Now, we've just seen a... it's a pintail. Oh, we'll have a quick look at the pintailed wider as he's flopping and flying about there. Oh, he's on the other side now. He's being a bit... He's displaying for the females, chasing them around. Oh, okay. Let's let him disappear. Now, while we continue on our missions, let's see if Tristan can find you a yellow-throated longclaw.
Oh, Brent Leo Smith, not this again. So, the background story in all of this, because I'm sure you're all wondering why Brent is smiling about a yellow-throated longclaw, is because around this time last year, a very, very special bird arrived here in the Sabi Sands, and we managed to see it. It was called a golden pipit, and golden pipits really don't occur here in any great numbers whatsoever. In fact, I think it was the 20th recorded sighting of a golden pipit in South Africa, so it wasn't exactly a common bird at all. And I managed to see it, and I took a photo and I sent it to Brent, and I told him that I had found a golden pipit, of which he argued with me that I had seen a longclaw, not because he disagreed and he actually knew it was a golden pipit, but he was just trying to give me trouble and trying to make me doubt myself and try and just cause a bit of a stir. And so now whenever we see a yellow-throated longclaw or any sort of sign of a yellowish bird, he reminds me of that fact all the time. So Brent Leo Smith, I will find another golden pipit if you're not careful, and you'll be in big trouble, because I know Brent, the reason why it upsets him is because you don't think he has a golden pipit on his Southern African list. He has seen golden pipits before. I know he saw one now on leave in Savo, but I don't think he's got one in South Africa. And so with Brent and I, it's always a competition, and the fact that I've got one certainly will make him a little bit jealous, and that's why this is all going on. Also, Brent Leo Smith, I'm glad that you are cutting your hair. It's about time, and I'm looking forward to the job that Megan and Jamie are going to do. I reckon you should film it, and so that we can all see what happens and see the sort interactive process as it goes along, because, well, I'm sure it's going to be a long haircut and it will be something quite entertaining to watch. Right, back to wildlife, because we've had enough of Brent and his wild hair at this stage. We're at Chitwa Dam. You can see it is dark, it is ominous, there is rain about. We've had a few drops falling on us already, and so Chitwa Dam, normally in the morning, I find a very difficult place to come and look at things, because normally you've got the sun glaring into your face, reflecting off the water from this side, and it is quite difficult to actually see what's going on. But because there's a bit of overcast weather, I thought, well, we'll come down and have a look anyway. It still should be quite pretty here, and then there's a lot of hippos that are fairly active at the moment. Because of the fact that it's quite cool, it means that they can be quite busy, and they've been chasing each other around. I actually see there's one out on the bank on the other side. You see, Seb, on the other side there's actually one that's out and about grazing, which I don't think we would have found this time yesterday morning, because it was already starting to get quite warm. There we go. Look, are you going to go splash in? No. What are you doing? How cute is that? It's chasing the thickney. So it was having a game with the thickney. Little baby hippos are so much fun. They tend to be like this, and I wonder if this is one of our baby hippos that we had in the beginning of the year. So Noel had a hippo that was born, and we also did as well, and so I wonder if it's maybe one of the two that is running around. How cute is that? Little hippos do have the best personalities. I love it when they're like this, because they kind of get the crazies. And I was saying just now, it's because of the overcast weather. If it had been hot, we wouldn't have seen this little hippo. But look at it, it's kind of showing its mouth at this thickney, and the thickney doesn't seem to be too perturbed at all. Are you going to chase it more, little one? And you can see Mom is completely just sort of oblivious to this whole thing. She's just like, I can't deal with this. The child is uncontrollable this morning. How cool is this? This is why Chitwa Dam is such a favorite for all of us, because there's always something going on, whether it be a playing charging hippo. What are you doing? It doesn't seem to even be chasing the right things. Look at that. Look at that brave thickney that's got its kind of wings out. Now, we are very far away, and I don't want to actually get closer, because I'm pretty sure the hippo will run into the water if we are closer. But look at that. It's a standoff. Bird versus hippo. And, well, the bird seems to have... Oh, no. Let's decide it. Out the way now. And look, the birds are coming back. They're almost playing as though... This is very cool. There's a whole game between birds and hippo, and you see the birds are not exactly sort of shy to go running up to the hippo too. I wonder if maybe they have eggs somewhere there that they're trying to defend in some way. It could be that, although I would imagine if they did have eggs, they'd be squashed by now because of this way this hippo has been running around. What you can also see on that hippo, which is quite interesting, oh, there we go, running again, is that it's got quite a few scars already. So it's obviously been bullied a little bit, either by the big male that's in here, or maybe some of the other younger hippos have already had a few chomps at it, and those sharp teeth have cut its side. Now, Mom would not really tolerate that very much at all. Now, I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but maybe we should do our action broadcast and just see if maybe a playful hippo will go down well. Let's see if it's going to carry on running. So well, good morning everybody, and welcome to this live broadcast from South Africa. As you can see, there's a little hippo that is walking off into a thicket. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera today I've got Sebastian, and we are coming to you live from South Africa, which means that you can post your comments in the section below, or any of your questions that you have, and we'll try to get through them. Now, the reason why we're with this little hippo is because this little hippo, it's a grey overcast morning, bit of rain around, and so it's having the best time. It's just having games with everything that is around. So it's charging up and down, chasing birds, running around with its mouth open. It's got quite a bit of character. You can see now it's chewing on a bit of a stump. So it's exploring its area, and the reason why it's exploring is because, well, it's young. It's a hippo that's not very old. It's probably, I would say now, about 4 months old, and so everything is a game. You can see, look, it's chasing the little bird there. So the bird and this hippo have been going after each other the whole morning, and they've kind of been sort of having this little standoff. Now, you may notice also a few little poles in the background. That's because we're right in front of a lodge at the moment. And so that's just a fence that's there to try and protect the lodge from elephants in particular. You'll also notice that there's a bit of rain that's falling onto the lens, so if you see Seb wiping the lens every now and then, please don't stress it. It's just to try and keep it as sort of clear as possible. But I wonder now with the rain if is going to sort of subside for us a little bit so that we can carry on watching this little hippo. It might force this hippo to go back into the water. They often do go in when it starts to rain. So Megan, you say this is so cute. Well, he is very cute, or she, I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell if it's a male or female at this age. When they're young like this, we can very seldom tell what they are. But look, it's bouncing its head. There's the bird on the right. So they've been kind of going back and forth. I think that the birds have a nest somewhere here, and they're a little bit nervous of this hippo sort of trampling on the nest, and that's why they're chasing the hippo. But it's definitely a hippo with attitude. So Dino, you say you never knew hippos were so playful. Well, they are, particularly the young ones. They go all over the place, and sometimes you'll find if there's a number of young ones together, then they'll porpoise in the water and they chase each other around and about all over the show, and it becomes quite entertaining to watch them in their games that they have. Now you can see the rain is also starting to fall now, which I suppose as a hippo doesn't really matter too much because your skin is designed to be in water, and so a bit of rain falling is certainly not going to dampen the spirits of this little one at this stage. Look at that. Is that not the cutest thing though? Let's see if it's going to come charging back to Mom. Mom is lying just to the right of where she is. So Sarah, I think this baby hippo is one of the ones that was born fairly recently, so it would make it about 5 months old, so it gets quite big quite quickly, although it looks a bit large. I'm trying to see it. We're very far away. It's on the other side of this waterhole, and so it's difficult to get a true size from the camera itself, but if you use the bird as a sort of size or sort of a kind of indication of how big this hippo is, it's still very little. So I'd say about 5 months old, maybe a little bit older than that. But the problem is now the rain is really starting to come in, and so we're going to have to put some covers on our equipment. Otherwise we're going to have a situation where everything's going to get a little bit damp and wet, unfortunately. So we're going to have to end our broadcast for now. Hopefully our hippo will stick around. Hopefully it will still be as playful. No worries, Seb, whatsoever. So Seb's just trying to clean everything up. Hopefully it will still be as playful, and if it is playful, we will go live again a little bit later. So remember that to keep a lookout, and I hope that you enjoyed our little playful hippo, and we'll see you all soon. Right, so we're going to try and get some rain covers on as this rain starts to fall, and while we do that, let's head back across to the Masai Mara and a bird that, well, doesn't really mind water too much at all.
It's just on the surface. Yes, thank you, and look at this, folks. We not only are chasing the big cat predators and hyenas and so on, here's one of our very small predators of the birding world, and this is an African pygmy kingfisher. But what is quite unusual here is that you normally find them in woodlands, and they're supposed to be non-aquatic. But this little birdie is not listening to the rules, and he's now just perched himself over a little body of water, and I think he's been catching little fish off the little insects off the surface of the water. But you can tell the difference between a pygmy kingfisher and a malachite kingfisher very easily because of that red bill. The malachite has got a black bill, and it's a very similar size. The pygmy, however, being slightly smaller. Oh, and they're very flyers, and it is difficult for the guys to keep a sight on them. But there he is. It's quite often that they will fly from one little stick to another. but beautiful colours. And he's got those very orange cheeks with the red bill and the blue on the wings, and he's also got that white fleck just behind the eye. Very diagnostic. And you see how they're bobbing, the head bobbing. Alrighty, folks. Well, that was wonderful and lovely to see little hunters like that. Speaking of hunters, let's send you on over to James, who's got a very beetle's eye view of another terrible hunter.
I do. I've been following a hyena with Ronald. Unfortunately, Ronald's picture is now breaking up. Ah, the hyena's leaving. He got bored of playing with Ronald. We did get some very nice pictures of him with Ronald, which we will try and show you a little bit later. Perhaps we'll try and post them somewhere at some stage. Well, we had a lovely time with the hyena, and he came up and he'd walked over Ronald once or twice, and then he came and gave him a bit of a sniff, and then he disappeared. Ronald, for those of you who don't know, is a little robot that we use out here, trying to just get different perspectives of the wild. Well, the reason you didn't see him, of course, was because you were watching magnificent hippopotamus chasing some thickneys, I believe. Let's just go and fetch Ronaldo now. We don't want him left in the wilderness on his own. He's a very sensitive fellow. Can you see him, David? There he is. Himself pinned behind a Waltheria bush. But I think that hyena, he's walking a fairly straight line down towards this area, and we're going to try and keep following him, because it would not surprise me at all if he was going towards a den. And so we will follow him. There's a little pitter-patter of a bit of rain at the moment, which is, well, it's quite nice on the skin, I suppose. Plug myself back in before we... But I think Ronald at a hyena den, being completely ignored by the hyenas, would be wonderful. I just don't know that the youngsters would ignore him. I think they would eat him. They would certainly find him most entertaining to chew for a while. Very heavy clouds suddenly overhead. As I say, we make a lot of comment about the weather here. I think we're going to find him on the main road now, that hyena. He was quite a youngster. I'm saying a he because he's small, but it just could be a small female. But I think that's a young male going back towards perhaps a central den. We might be lucky. We'll just nip across here as the rain starts to fall. David, you're all right with the camera there, are you? Good. Gone mute, but seems to be okay. Now we've just got to find where the hyena crossed the road here. Mr. Cutum, you're wondering how old Ronald is. Ronald is now Q-tip, Mr. Q-tip, in other words, Earbud. Mr. Earbud, what a name. Mr. Earbud, you want to know how old Ronald is? He is about 18 months old at this stage, I think. When did we first use him? Yeah, I think he's about 18 months. I think this hyena crossed the road around about here. We'll probably go round to a gullet. Have you got him? He's whooping behind us. Ooh, he says. Yes, well done, David. David managed to come out of his shell for long enough to tell us the hyena was whooping behind us. I think that their new den is in an area where there are no roads. It's behind the Gallagher Pan, a maze of drainage lines. But he's heading down towards the Gallagher Pan, so we'll head down that way. Nice that he's calling, trying to establish contact with the rest of the clan. You just turn Ronald around slightly. Alrighty, while we get there, Brent Leo Smith has managed to find himself yet more predators. In 10 seconds only, though, we're going to go across to him because I wish to speak to you for another 10, no, just 4 seconds. In fact, we're going to go right now.
Look at this. It is a very lazy lion. And there's a very upset Sesticular somewhere in the grass. There's actually 2 lions there. There's Hunter, one of the musketeers. We were speaking about him a bit earlier, how I hadn't seen them in quite some time. And we can tell it's Hunter due to that scar on his leg. There we go. Good morning, Hunter. He's very lazy today. Now, there is a female lying in the long grass quite close to him, but we can't see her from here. They could be mating, they could just be hanging out. We've been here for longer than 15 minutes, so I think they're just hanging out. They look like they've got relatively full bellies. So we're not going to spend too much time here. We might check on them again later on today. But, okay. Adrian has come out. Oh, flying now. Ah, there it is. You see that little birdie there? Top of the grass. A little bit, there we go. There we go. So, oh, got something. It's very upset, that Sesticular. So it came out of the grass where the lions were, and you can see them just tapping, but it looks like it caught a little bug. Now, for our serious birders, I'm going to lay down the challenge. Hashtag Safari Live if you know which Sesticular this is. Now, if you're not a serious birder, I will accept LBJ, which is what people call little brown jobs. The people who can't identify them call them LBJs, little brown jobs. So if you're not a serious birder, by all means, hashtag Safari Live LBJ. But if you are a serious birder, what Sesticular is that? Chirping away. And here, I know James was talking about the dawn chorus a bit earlier, so it's a bit later here in the Mara. Oh, and off he goes. I think we're going to follow the Sesticular's suit, because these lions are not moving a muscle. I have heard that there is another male lion not too far down the road, so hopefully he'll maybe be out in the open, or hopefully have his head up at least. Now I'm just going to get the Sesticulars up. Now, remember to look very carefully at the end of the tail. There were little white windows on the edge of the tail. That is one of the diagnostics, and that very distinct little call. Tit, 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 and that's all the hints you're getting. So there we go. Paula has taken the LBJ, the little brown job, to the next level. She says it's a little tweet bird. Let's have a look at this bird on the right here. So there we go. Ooh, there we go. So that's what Tristan's looking for, a yellow-throated longclaw. I'm joking, of course. He did actually see a golden pipit. Don't ever tell him I agree with him, because I like telling him it was a yellow-throated longclaw. And there's a little female Tommy as well. Joey in Australia said stout Sesticular. No, it wasn't actually a stout Sesticular. The stout Sesticular is quite a lot bigger than that one. It was quite small. But that is a very, very, very close guess. The Sesticulars are quite difficult. So the other thing about the stout Sesticular is it's got that a very distinct little rufous. The head of it is quite rufous, whereas this one had more black or darker coloration on the head. Now the trick is that call, that zit 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 zit. That is the giveaway on that particular Sesticular. Now, Sesticulars are incredibly difficult. It took me quite a long time of listening to calls is mostly the best way of identifying them. And one thing that irritates my brother and Jamie and other people is that when it's my turn to play the music and I put it on random, about every fourth song is interspersed with a bird call, but with none of the announcement of the species. So I've got to try to figure out what it is. And Robin said a winding testicular. It's not a winding testicular. They've got a very, very distinct call. Now, we do get winding testiculars occasionally in the Mara, especially in marshy areas. They take the place of the red-faced testicular. So in southern Africa, in reed beds, marshes, you've got the red-faced testicular, the embarrassed testicular. And in East Africa, spot on, zitting testicular. So it is a zitting testicular. Well done. Well done indeed. So here we go. A zitting testicular. And you can see it was displaying quite nicely as well. So we could see that the white on the tails quite prominently. So the stout testicular also has it, but it is quite a lot bigger than the zitting testicular. Zitting testicular is one of the smallest. The smallest we get in the Mara is the pectoral patch testicular. Pectoral patch almost looks identical to the zitting, apart from the fact it's got a white patch on its shoulder, on its pec. There we go. Well done, Liz. Okay, let's keep moving. I must say, when I arrived back in the Mara, I wasn't quite sure about this weather. Now, at camp, it is utterly miserable because it's very cold. We're a lot higher than on the Mara floor, and the wind howls. But once you're down here in the basin, it is actually very pleasant. We're going to try see if we can all catch up with that male lion. While we do that, let's go across to Steve, who's hopefully recovered from his bout of terminalia and is marching along in a very wet Djuma.
We are in Djuma, and it is starting to be quite pleasant here. Thank you, Brent. I'm glad it's pleasant for you up in the Mara. The taste in my mouth is still not that pleasant. It's still a little bit rubbery inside there. But folks, I'm not sure if you can see it, but the rain is starting to fall down on Djuma. And as much as I like singing in the rain, it is getting a little bit wet, and our gear that VM is holding is not ideal in this condition. So we're going to make our way back to camp. There is a tent there where I believe there's all sorts of wonderful little things to talk about. So we're going to slowly make our way there as the rain in Djuma starts to come down. What was really interesting before, we can't see it now, but there are flocks and flocks of European rollers that are just coming in from the north. We've been seeing them for about the last hour or so. It's been difficult to catch on camera because of the light, but there's been hundreds of them. And with the rain come the insects, and that is what the European rollers are here for. They don't come here to breed, and some latecomers, probably there's been some good rains up in the north, and slowly they're making their way in. And we were watching them, and they're going directly towards where the rain is falling. So really, really nice to see that we got lots more European rollers and migrants coming in. I'm sure most of you wish you could just get on your wings and fly right in here. No passports, no citizenships, no stamps. Just come for a while, eat, no tax, and there we go, no flight etiquettes. What a wonderful way to go. So we are going to send you over to, I'm not sure who exactly, but we are going to send you up to the Mara, I believe, where they're having pleasant weather. Not sure it's raining. Hopefully your elf is not stuck, and you're probably looking for lions with Brent.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, it is me. It is Ralph, the undisputed king of getting stuck in the mud. And speaking of mud and animals that like that, here's one that does like to wallow a little bit. And look at that lovely setting with the hot air balloons wafting in the background. And this looks like a female hyena just lazily sitting on the road. And so we thought we wouldn't disturb her just yet and move her off that we could pass. We just thought we'd stop and watch her for a while because hyenas are fascinating animals, and we can't discriminate between them and cheetah. but we do want to find the cheetah. That's why we've come this side. So lovely to see. It is a very cool morning here on this side of the river as well. So I'm sure Brent is saying that it's nice and comfortable in the triangle. Well, it's rather comfortable here too. We do, however, have to have our jerseys on because with the wind chill, it's rather chilly. But that does bode well for predators. They can be quite a lot more active if it's nice and cool. I always love that cute little face of hyena. You wouldn't think that they could be such ferocious animals. And the ones at the den, they look like they've been swallowing warthogs whole. But this one looks like it's a little bit hungrier than the ones at the den. But we're going to be moving along shortly, and we are just slowly working along these luggers, and that's the name of the game on this side of the river. Now, First Lady, you're wondering how long hyenas can go without food, and they can go quite a long time without food. It all depends on how much food they've eaten before that. So, like those ones at the den that look like they've swallowed warthogs whole, they could probably go for even up to about 2 weeks, and then they would obviously have to feed. But they can gorge themselves. They've almost got expandable stomachs, and I'm sure you would have seen if you've been watching the last couple of days that I've shown those hyena. It seems they've fed one night and fed almost the following night again and gorged themselves once more. So it's incredible the amount that they could feed on, and then after that they could potentially go for another I would say even up to about 2 weeks, and then they would be really getting hungry, and they would then that would drive them to go and hunt again or scavenge or whatever they might come across. But that's the biggest driver with predators is the hunger. So it's always good to check how hungry they look. If they're looking hungry, like we're going to try and find some hungry looking cheetah, then those are the ones that we want to follow. We're not going to particularly be sitting and waiting with a cheetah or a group of lions that are looking very fat and not obviously going to be hunting anytime soon. So that's the name of the game. Look for hungry looking animals, and those are the ones you want to stay with and see if they're going to hunt, because we're going to be spending the whole day out today and tomorrow and possibly the next day as well. So very important that we do need to check for those kind of little traits and tricks, because if we can find some animals that are hungry, well, that will be great. But obviously it's nice to see animals also that they're nice and fat, and especially if they've just fed and so on. It's interesting to see them full of blood and all of that, but you don't want to spend too much time because they're not going to be hunting. So that's what we will be doing. Right, I think, speaking of hungry cheetah, let's go and find some. Sorry, Madam Cheetah. Hyena, I mean. My brain is now on cheetah. Now, Scarlett, you're wondering, which is a very good question. Thank you for your question once again, Scarlett. You're always sending through wonderful questions. You're wondering if a hyena birth is more painful than other animals. Well, the research suggests that it is, because, and if you look at the logistics of how it actually happens with hyena, you can imagine that it would be, because the female hyena gives birth through her pseudopenis, and I'm sure that you can imagine that small orifice that they do come through is a very small space. Now, I'm just going to stop here just quickly, folks, and see if we have any information. Have you guys seen anything? No, just a hyena here. We're still starting. Enjoy, yeah? Okay, everybody is just looking for information, seeing what everybody else is seeing, so we won't go on the same road that they just came from, because they obviously haven't been too lucky. So, Scarlett, to finish your answering your question, yes, it's actually quite a logistical nightmare for female hyena to give birth. They do give birth through that pseudopenis, which is very painful for the female, and it's actually very dangerous for the cubs as well, because they can suffocate on their way out. So it's not ideal, but there are a lot of hyena around, so it's obviously not a seriously inhibiting factor, but I wouldn't like to be a female hyena giving birth in particular. If we look at female hyena in other senses, they do very much rule the roost, so it could be great to be a female hyena in that sense, up until the point that you have to give birth. Then I would rather not. Not that any other mammals and animals is very nice to give birth. It's not like it's a pleasure, but I think the female hyena is probably one of the most painful. Right, folks, so we're going to be looking for all the little clues and trying to catch up with something or groups of animal that is going to excite us. But in the meantime, let's head you on over to the other side of the river, and Brent, I think, is near to the river.
Indeed, Ralph, I am next to the river with a lovely raft of hippopotamus. Now, the river is incredibly low at the moment, and there's going to start being some big hippo fights, I think. And we started seeing some of the fighting a little bit earlier around Dusty Crossing. This pod looks quite sedate at the moment. Let's go off to the tiny baby in the rocks. Come way out to the left. You can see the mom following it through the rocks. Come out to the left more. There we go. Look, there we go. You see the one standing up just in front of it. There we go. A tiny baby. Now, is it being harassed by the bigger one, or is it mom trying to keep up with it and keep it out of the rocks where it might get sequestered by a crocodile? I'm not sure what's going on there. I think that maybe it was mom decided it wandered a little bit too far towards the rocks. I can't see it now. They've dropped into a deep hole. It was very little. There it is. Its nose just popped out. Wait, just on that rock, back a little bit left. There we go. It popped out right next to that rock. There you just see that little from it there. There it is. Oh, it's struggling. Mom's trying to get its head up. There we go. Hello, little thing. Oh my goodness. You are so sweet looking. So, at oldest, probably a week or so. It's always wonderful to see tiny little hippos. Of course, there's some very big crocodiles around here, and if it wandered too far away from the rest of the hippos, the crocodiles are opportunists. Oh, goodness. So cute. Well, just stop right there for me, Adrian. Sid was asking, how do you tell the difference between male and female hippo? Now, on the left, my bad, there's a big male. You can just see the size of his neck and head, and there's a little baby behind, but you can see how much bigger his head is. He's gone under now, than the female, so it's purely on size. The males are a lot bigger. Now, I'm not sure whether this is mom, or is it someone just... It must be mom. Mom wouldn't let someone else chase the tiny little one around unless mom's been eaten by lions, which is unlikely. Now these hippos are quite lucky with all the grasses around. They don't have to go as far as even the hippos from Chitwa would to get good grazing throughout the year. Sometimes those hippos from Chitwa have to do big distances during the low-veld winter to get where they need to be. There we go. This is quite interesting what's going on here. I'm not quite sure exactly what's happening. It's definitely being moved around. Okay, it's going to go behind us. I'm just going to turn the car slightly so Adrian can still get it. So Lewis is wondering, does a baby hippo have enough fat to float? Well, it's got enough fat to bounce off the bottom. It is very, very shallow, and the majority of the river at the moment, with a couple of deep pools. Now, sometimes hippos can become quite boisterous with little ones and accidentally kill them. And even on some occasions on purpose kill them if there's been a takeover by a new male. But it seems like everything's relatively relaxed here, and which makes me think it was mom rather than someone else. Maybe she looked quite young, so maybe a new mom being a little bit panicky. It is amazing that hippos can't swim. They just jog along the bottom, and when they need to breathe, they use the buoyancy of their blubber to bounce up, take a breath, and then go down again. Oh. Well, everything's calmed down a little bit, so let's keep moving. Sid is wondering, how often do baby hippos drown in the river? Not very often. Generally, that only happens during big floods. Now, let's go see if we can find the lion that's just down the road, somewhere close by. So generally during big floods, and even then, they often won't drown. They'll actually die from hunger. During big floods, they often get separated from their mother and get washed far downstream, and then normally manage to sort of get out onto an island or a log or anything. And then it's quite sad because they normally die then from exhaustion and lack of food. Okay. Now they say there's only one male lion down here, but you never know. There could be others hiding in the croton thickets. I'm quite excited to head towards Kruger today because I haven't been there since I've been back, and I know quite a few people might be excited because it is a very good leopard area for the triangle, and we've seen that absolutely gorgeous female there quite a few times. There's a little stream there called Maja Chafu, and Maja Chafu female, and that's a little lugger she hangs out at. And Craig and I nicknamed it, oh my goodness, I can say last year. We nicknamed it last year Happy Valley because at the one day I think we had cheetah, lion, hyena, a big clan of hyena, and leopard all within this one little valley. So hopefully Happy Valley is going to be producing today as well. But while we make our way slowly towards that area, let's go see how Ralph's doing on the other side of the river.
Thanks, Brent. Well, I haven't gotten stuck just yet, and I always say if you don't get stuck, you're not trying hard enough. And it was quite funny yesterday because the guys that came to help us get unstuck, we had the amount of times that we had tried to get out of this little rut inside the lugger, we made quite a dent on the inside of this hippo wallow. So the locals said that they are going to now call that Ralph's lugger. So I'm quite pleased. I've left my mark here in the Mara. Fantastic. You've got to make some way of making people remember you, and if that's the way they're going to remember me, well, so be it. And we're still working our way through these loggers, all the while looking for those little white flashes. It's normally on the belly of the cheetah or the lion, or the little flash of the tail. So little white or fawny colors that we are always looking for, and very often stopping and looking at fawny colored rocks or termite mounds. AV, you're wondering what I like most about cheetah. AV, I think it has to be that they are daytime hunters, because when we get out during the day we can watch them going about their very exciting business of hunting during the day, and obviously the speed at which they do it and the success rate that they have as well. They're actually much better hunters than lions, and so their success rate is much higher. And normally if you watch an experienced cheetah on the hunt, when they go and they start going in for the kill, it's generally that they're going to finish it off. So that's probably the most nice thing for me about cheetah, or the thing that I like the most. So that's why I'm on the search for them, and it's because of the concentration of the lions and cheetah here. That's why we're not particularly driving past anything else, but it is a very big point of interest on this, especially on this side of the river. On the other side, there is a lot of other animals that make it very nice in the triangle, especially with the very large numbers of elephants. Alright folks, so while we continue on and keep just searching these luggers for the cheetah, it sounds like all the way back in South Africa the guys have managed to batten down the hatches and everybody's safe and sound from the rain. Let's head you off to James.
We also had some squirrels here. We have got, well, the hatches aren't quite battened down, but we have got roofs on so we can batten down the hatches. There were 2 squirrels having a wonderful time here. Unfortunately, they're now hiding from us, naturally. Now, just to keep you updated, oh, there's one on the ground there. You see him, Dav? There's one on the ground there. We got one on the bush. And then left, way beyond that. Oh, he's gone now. Never mind. Okay, so what we did was we followed that hyena through the bush, hoping to find a den site with him. But alas and alack, the rain began and we were unable to continue. He did go into that thick stuff to the north of the Gallagher Pan. So we think that's where he might be. Ah, there we have some animals, David. Do you see them? How's this angle? Is it dreadful? Sorry about the pole. That is the roof, of course, everyone. Ooh, I've seen something else quite interesting, but let's just keep looking at these wildebeest for now. The other thing I'll show you is not going anywhere. It's very sweet little babies. Look at the horns already coming up. Those things can't be more than, what, when were they born? Just before we went on leave, about 8 weeks old. That one's younger. That's very young. It's still got a bit of umbilical cord hanging from it. But the other one, which was probably, let's call it 4 weeks older than this little unsteady thing, has already got his little horns coming, or her horns. There we go, not enjoying the rain very much. Wondering why suddenly life's become so chilly after being so very violently hot yesterday. Very sweet. Got their big knees, it's always amazed me. I think that's probably one of the reasons they're able to run so fast, so early. Oops. Is that they've got these huge knock knees, and I mean their legs are so well developed by the time they're born. Look how long they are in comparison with their mother's legs compared with the rest of the body. They're all legs, and that gives them of course the ability to move almost as soon as they're born. Yes, this one is very unsteady on his little feet. One of them is digging. Ah, that's interesting. This is a bit of a dig and then a lie down. And a roll. Little one shaking the rain off his face. Something about baby animals, isn't it? There's just something about watching little creatures. We don't feel quite the same about baby dung beetles, for example. Baby dung beetles, which are cutworms, basically, disgusting looking white grubs. We don't feel the same about baby butterflies, caterpillars. Many people find quite offensive. But young mammals, universally loved. And already trying to scratch off their ticks. Scarlett, you're wondering where these wildebeest have travelled from. Not very far, Scarlett. In this area, in the Sabi sand, they don't migrate, and that's because there is a lot of water around permanently, and so they live a sedentary lifestyle. So this herd will live in and around this area, probably in an area of around about, let's call it 20,000 acres or so, just under 10,000 hectares. And they'll move between here, Arathusa, Cheetah Plains, Chitwa, Little Gowrie, those which are the reserves surrounding Djuma. So they don't move very far at all. They don't move anything like the distances that the chaps up in or down in Kenya and the Serengeti move. What's also interesting about that little migration is that people talk of it as being, you know, an enormous distance. It actually isn't. It's only about 300 miles, around a 300-mile round trip, which is not huge, especially when you consider it's done over the course of a year. Donald, I was wondering that myself, and I think you'll probably find they don't. You say, why do our umbilical cords have to be tied in a knot and then cut and then disinfected and sewed up? And, you know, why is there all this palaver over our umbilical cords where something like this just flops out and it's kind of snapped off? I think you'll find that a human being's umbilical cord would wither and fall away with the departure of the afterbirth as well. I really don't know, Donald, but I guarantee you there's somebody who does, who's watching. So if anybody would like to tell us, is it necessary to chop off a baby's umbilical cord, or is it just a sort of is it just for convenience that we do it, so that obviously the child and the mother don't have to hang around with the umbilical cord until it withers or until it ruptures? I think it's probably convenience. It probably reduces the risk of infection as well, but I think you'll probably find it's not 100% necessary, but I don't know that for sure. It would be very nice if somebody with more obstetrical knowledge could tell us. Sorry, the camera's just rising slightly as David tries to adjust the roof. You can hear him putting his tent down now. Very nice. Okay, let me just take you across very slowly to the other thing I wanted to show you. Which is just down over here. Well done, David. David's now, of course, very nice and dry in his little tenty, while I brave the weather selflessly. That is my wont. Not so, David. There we are. So, Blame USA, thank you very much. You say that the removal of the umbilical cord helps us to reduce infection. Well, thank you very much for that. I guess the question is, is it impossible for the thing to rupture and fall off without being cut, or would it eventually rupture and fall off regardless? Okay, so there we have a crinum lily, otherwise known as a candy stripe lily, and I don't think they smell like other lilies do. I'm just going to go and have a little smell of it. And I'm just going to be careful not to get my nose entangled in the ziziphus, because that will be very unpleasant indeed. There is a smell. It actually smells like a candy cane, a very sort of mild candy cane. Yeah, like a mild sugary scent. It's very pleasant, but it's not powerful like some of the lily species are known to smell like, can be sometimes. All right, let us move out further from camp. Oh, now James, you're wondering, in my opinion, which plant gives off the best scent? Well, out here, I think it is the gardenia. The Bushveld gardenia, or Gardenia falkensii, has a beautiful, beautiful smell for such a small period. And so if you can catch them when they're white, they give off a really delightful smell. Next would be the jasmine, I suppose. They're also very delicious. The smell, I mean, it also depends what time of year. So, I mean, the knobthorn trees give a beautiful sort of smell in the early September time. I'm just quickly going to speak to Johan on the radio, if I can find the radio, which is now somewhere located underneath my seat. Go ahead, Johan. I'm just hoping he's got something interesting to tell us. David, there's quite a lot of water on that lens. No, negative. We've had to come home to put our roofs on. We're going back out now. He's just asking if we have had any luck. And he's just saying he's been trying around Buffelshoek Dam, nothing there. Now he's going down Chitwa line to see what's going on that side, and he's got nothing so far. Thank you very much. Okay. And Tristan says that there were wild dogs somewhere, and they crossed over Chitwa down towards Cheetah Plains. David, are you alright, or would you like us to stop so that you can do that and I can talk about a plant? You alright, are you? Okay, David's okay. Safari Heart, a lovely question from you while we sit here trying to avoid getting wet. You say, is there a lot of work being done in the attempt to take down fences between reserves that are next to each other? Yes, there is, and there's a continuing process. And in many respects, I suppose it's complete almost in this area. You'll find very few reserves or farms, private farms, are farmed out from the Greater Kruger National Park. There are attempts to create a corridor. There's tracks of a female leopard from the last night early. To create a corridor between here and the mountains of the Drakensberg so that the elephants can move to and from there. That's not so much between farms. What that is tracks, sorry, Tristan is now talking about tracks of things. What that is the complication for that, of course, is that there are a whole lot of people between here and communal grazing land between here and the mountains, and so that's one of the projects that's going on. I guess, in various other parts of South Africa, there are fairly large conservancies getting larger and larger, especially around our national park areas in the Eastern Cape, where I now call myself at home. There is a park called the Addo Elephant National Park, and slowly more and more private sort of farms are becoming part of the greater Addo area. So yes, absolutely, it is happening. Hunting is always a complication because a lot of people who want to do photographic tourism don't want their animals straying onto a farm where they could be shot. So that's obviously an added complication. But certainly, the situation now compared with a while back, much, much better. There is a squirrel that's very angry, but it's now run away naturally, and so we won't worry too much to look at it as we head across to Tristan Dix, who I believe has managed to change his underpants, so he is no longer sitting in a puddle.
Indeed I have, James. I've changed my entire outfit. I am now dry again, which is fantastic because at one point I had a very soggy bottom, and no one likes a soggy bottom anywhere in the world. Hey, Seb. No. Anyway, so we all changed. We're now dry, which is fantastic. The rain seems to be stopping. Of course it would be, because we have gotten ourselves all sorted out and fixed up and roof on, and that's why the rain will now dissipate. But interestingly enough, when I went back to Inga's now, just to try and quickly grab a new shirt because I was drenched on that side, and obviously, as James has mentioned, other parts of my attire. There is tracks for both male and female leopard that are walking all over the place at Inga's. Seems like even inside the camp. So I'm just trying to see if I can follow those tracks. Now I think I saw some tracks here coming down. So I wonder if these are not the same male and female tracks that we had earlier in the drive, and definitely the same male ones that I think cross south into Little Gowrie, but the female ones continue south down this road, so let's carry on following them. There is an elephant that has stood all over it. There's rain on top of it, so they're not the freshest of tracks, but you never know. Maybe we get lucky, maybe we'll be able to find this leopard. It's worth just trying to follow. There's not really much else happening this morning, and so any little sort of lead that we can get is worth trying to take a chance.